Okay, so this is my spoiler review of Cobra Kai Season 3. I'll be breaking down every single episode. If you have not watched the whole season, do not watch this review yet. Wait till you've watched all of the season and then come back to this review. So, I'm someone I grew up as a kid loving The Karate Kid. I watched all the films when I was really young, and then I hadn't seen them in forever and they kind of faded out in my memory. I heard about Cobra Kai. I wanted to know what it was all about. So recently, I rewatched all the Karate Kid movies. Then I watched the Cobra Kai, and I loved Season 1, and I was so about Season 2. So I had my expectations right in the middle here for Season 3. So starting with Episode 1, Aftermath, what really works well to start a season off is that everybody is in a bad spot, and it actually shows you how effective having Miguel fall and hurt himself set the stage for Season 3, because it was something that was desperately needed to shake everything up and have people react to something and kind of tilt their characters. And that happens here, where now Robbie's on the run, Johnny Lawrence is a drunken mess, and then Daniel LaRusso, his name is tarnished. His business is affected. So everyone's fighting something here. Conflict is beginning right from the start. Now we also get shifts in the cast here, where the character of Yasmin, Front Wedgie, who was not in Season 2, is back. And we actually lose Aisha here, who was a big player in both Season 1 and 2. And they say she moved to a private school. She wasn't written in this season. And I was surprised, because again, she's always been there from the start. And I thought it was an interesting choice that she wasn't in this season. She could always come back, obviously. But I also felt a little bad for the actress, because I know she had posted about it on social media. So I do hope we'll see her again in the future. But you'll see also characters like Moon kind of fade out a bit here. I think she's only in Episode 1. But why that's positive note, what works on cutting some of the character time of the younger actors in this show is that they fixed a big problem I had in Season 2, where it really leaned into this teen drama, where Season 3, you could clearly tell they got back to the adults, and they purposely did this because they know that's what worked so well in Season 1. And Season 3 is mostly scenes with adults. The main plot lines are about the adults, not the kids, where that kind of shifted in Season 2 to the kids, which I think hurt it. And where it works so well with our main two adults in Daniel and Johnny is that they blame themselves for what happened with all this fighting and what happened to Miguel and Robbie. And it sets the stage well in Episode 1 that Daniel sees Kreese, and Kreese is laying all the disses to him. He even uses his own line, "Can't blame Robbie, no bad students," against Daniel, which was great. And I like Kreese talking crap about Miyagi to set off Daniel here. It really works well. The show's so good at bringing in back things from Karate Kid movies and tying them in. And they do that with tone. They always give it that fun 80s tone, but also character beats and way they present things, just like the movies, with having literally going to old footage from the movies or from past episodes like the movies would do. And a lot of motivational speak through thoughts. Even I like how they had Miguel here when he was in his coma. He was thinking about what Johnny had told him and motivating him even in his sleep. But they did a lot of smart things with the script here. Just even having Johnny and Daniel, how they would be brought together to be in this buddy cop film is to find Robbie. Something to temporarily put their beef aside for the greater good. And thank God when we see Robbie here, he got a haircut. That was great. In Season 2, he had this bob. Little things like that are huge. It just can change a character completely, and you can take the character more seriously. And already here, they're setting up this merger between Miyagi Dough, and which will eventually be Johnny's dojo, Eagle Fang. And Daniel has this line, "We can't let them suffer because of our issues. Only way to end this is by working together." And I love the end of the episode where Miguel wakes up with the close-up on his face from the coma, and it's like Jon Snow when he's revived in Game of Thrones. And it was nice to add a little tribute to the actor Rob Garrison, who played Tommy from the films, who was in Season 2, but he passed away after Season 2, so it was nice to put a little tag at the end of the episode for him. And for me, this episode, I'm going to give it an 8.7, but the positive for it was better than any episode in Season 2 for me. And that was already hope, and I could already tell they had a good plan here, just again having such good pieces to set up here. That was already evident in the first episode. So it's a little surprising here is Episode 2, Nature vs. Nurture. We actually get a flashback here in San Fernando Valley in 1965, and we see the beginnings now of this backstory of Kreese. There's big moments to learn about Kreese's character because we learn his mother killed himself, which is such a traumatic thing. We see when he first saw a pamphlet to go into the army, and it lays the beginning now of a couple Kreese flashbacks we get, which I think really worked well, which I'll get more into as we see more of it. But what I really love about how they set up now with these 3 dojos, but the 3 teachers in Johnny, Kreese, and Daniel, to me, it's like this scale of white, gray, and black, and that would be white being Daniel, gray being Johnny, and black being Kreese. You're seeing these 3 different types of school of karate. And when I'm talking about Kreese being this dark way of how he does things, I mean, he kicks someone out of his dojo for not feeding the mouse to the snake. I thought that was great. I like how they also had Kreese and Hawk have this relationship together, and he's just bringing the worst out in Hawk. I love what they do with Hawk this season, especially because he's got to his worst point here as a person, and they kind of fixed where Miguel had an extreme switch a lot of people complained about at the end of season 1, where he kind of just became this like evil guy, but it was such a flip from someone who was so likable at the beginning of season 1, where they kind of brought him a little bit back down to his center in Earth, and it made Miguel likable again, which was important. And they kind of let Hawk take that role, which was made more sense because of how bullied he was and how he was already on that path of going extreme for revenge. So Hawk fills a better role of being this extreme type now under Kreese. And what concerned me about season 2 was it would lean so much into teen drama, it forgot about the comedy here. And what season 1 did so well was it had such a good comedy in it and constantly throwing jokes in, but it didn't take away from the heart and drama at the core of the show. Where season 2 kind of just left the comedy aside and it was missing, and they kind of brought it back a decent amount here in season 3. I wouldn't say it's as good as season 1's comedy, but it's clearly better than season 2, and they tried more. And the best is when they lean into Johnny being like a big kid and Daniel being this parent type, and they clash at that. And there's nothing better than seeing Johnny trying to use Facebook, or even here in this episode when he's eating the corn nuts and flipping them up, and Daniel's like, please don't get them in my car. And they do a good job at lining up the flashbacks of Kreese to what he's doing in present day. Like, his best memory see of him is saving this girl at the diner who would end up being his girlfriend. It's lined up with how he does a good thing for Tori and takes care of her creepy landlord and pays for her rent. And this is how you recruit Tori. But it only shows little blips of the good in Kreese. There's very few good in Kreese, but they do a good job in the flashbacks because as we get to, you'll understand more how he became this monster and where that decision to be a monster happened. So they smartly don't make him too sympathetic either, but they do effectively give him a little humanity here, which I like. And I love about Cobra Kai is you never know what to expect. Just like the Karate Kid movies, anything can happen, and I think it's good it leads into that cheesiness because that is the tone of Karate Kid. And I love just a scene here where you're getting a van car chase here with Johnny and Daniel, and they start to fight these thugs together. That was a crowd pleaser, seeing them work together for a bit. But what's great is every time they try to work together, they always start fighting. They can't agree on something, so they always keep you on edge with these two together. They don't just make them make up and be best friends, which I like. They always are going at it. What I really like where the writing was strong was this narration of Kreese here talking to his students, ending with this monologue saying, your whole life you're told to be good, all perspective, no good or bad, only weak or strong. You shed our weaknesses to show our strength. So it's a really good job, again, just showing you the mindset of a character like Kreese and what his core belief is. And that is how he acts in life, and that's how he trains people, and being, like he says, unstoppable. So you got kind of goosebumps there. So I'm going to give this episode an 8.9. I thought this one was just ended really strong, and I like they started introducing these flashbacks for Kreese, so he won't just be a one-note villain. Like I said, look at the time of dialogue, how much more is with the adults that we really care about. I'm not totally dissing the kid actors here or the kid characters, but come on, what we really want to see also is the people we grew up with and have been laid as the focus of the show, and you got to at least give them a little more of an edge here, and they're doing that. So Episode 3, Now You're Gonna Pay, starts off a little slow because they have to get through this drama with Danny LaRusso in his dealership and losing people, and it really is just to set up a reason for him to go to Japan and eventually Okinawa. So it starts a little slow off the gates this episode, but again, I love this humor they got going with Johnny. He has a great humorous line where he says to his friend Bobby, I still don't get how they get the coffee and the cake when he's eating a coffee cake. I thought that was, again, some of the best comedy writing the show does is with Johnny. And to add to the Johnny humor here, there's another scene where when Johnny's trying to get a job so he can pay for Miguel's surgery, and they're asking about his resume, and they find out he has a criminal record. The best is assaulted minors, he says. The way he says it and not taking it so seriously was just great, and how awful that sounds. So they do a good balance here with the script because They have Sam take over and take lead of Miyagi Dough, gives her a little more interest in her story, and switches things up with Daniel with him going to Japan. And it ends on a good cliffhanger this episode because now we get the tease about our Karate Kid 2 characters coming in. But I'm giving this episode 8.1. It was one of my least favorites. There's a lot of mouths to feed. You had to drag through a little bit of this car dealership story to get to where we need to go. It wasn't that enjoyable. It's a little flat. Now, episode 4, The Right Path. Daniel decides to go to Okinawa here when he's in Japan, and I love how well they did everything attached to Karate Kid 2. Karate Kid 2 is my least favorite Karate Kid movie. Yes, sue me. I like the next Karate Kid better than Karate Kid 2. But I really love how they did Karate Kid 2 characters in this season. I liked it better than anything in Karate Kid 2. I like this theme going on about how Daniel could still visit people in spirit even though Miyagi is gone. It's funny to see the village from Karate Kid 2 is now just all retail that Mr. Sato brought out, seeing a Red Lobster and Gap. But there was something magical about when he first saw Kimiko dancing, when they lock eyes. Now, I will say in this episode, the bullying scenes on the other end of it with Hawk were getting a little repetitive because we see it happen with Dimitri's science project. We see it happen at the soccer match. I was worried season 3 was going to start doing this again, where sometimes some of the beats with the bullying especially keep repeating themselves or gets tired, but they didn't, thank God. But this episode in particular, they did, which I wasn't crazy about. I think we got the point already by now that Hawk is on a different level right now and that he's crazy. I don't think we need to keep reasserting that. So back in the story in Okinawa, I love Kimiko still calls him Daniel-san, and he sees there's no ring on her finger. And she's like, no guy fought to death for me. Just again, some of these lines tie so well to these old films and really do it justice. And I like that this story is a nice escape for this storyline of Daniel being in this midlife crisis, and he can kind of recenter himself here. And I love they are at Aunt Yuki's old place and how it really worked having Miyagi wrote love letters to Yuki, and we can read from those. And it's going to bring the tears out here for serious Karate Kid fans, having the lines like Miyagi talking about on his deathbed in his letter, I got lost until I met Daniel-san, and that he was a guiding light to him. That's some great just payoff from stories continuing on from the Karate Kid films to this show. And they do justice with the writing, with how Miyagi would talk. Like, I love this line. In life, we always lose our way, but it's the people, not the signs, that guide us back to the right path. I heard that in a car commercial. Exactly how Miyagi would talk. It's a great inspirational quote, and it has that little punchline at the end, which is great. I gotta say, though, acting-wise, I'm blown away how good Kimiko is here. She absolutely brings 100%, but unfortunately, Ralph Macchio struggles because it's a really high-range scene to bring emotion here, and I don't think he totally is up to par with her in this scene. But again, it's still a great scene and really can get you emotional here, and it's great wake-up for Daniel. And it transitions well to Johnny waking up now with Miguel. He's getting Miguel out of his slumpy ways as he's getting out of his slump. And I love we got a quiet this season. It's my favorite thing running in the show. So I'm happy we got at least one, and it was here in this episode like it's titled, everyone getting on the right path here. And again, lining up similar stories well, where Kreese now appears to Robbie, but on the other end, which tricks you at first because you think it's bad, Chosen appears to Daniel. I really wish they didn't put this in the trailer though, Chosen. That would have shocked me so much. If I didn't know he was coming, I would have been like, are they going to do that? But it's so cool when you see them bring these actors back. So at this point in the season, when you watch these first 4 episodes, I would say that the Okinawa story is a standout, and that Johnny's is pretty solid, and that stuff going on with the kids at school is very meh. But this episode I would give an 8.6. So episode 5 is called Miyagi Dough. It's one of the longer episodes at 38 minutes. I love they open this episode with a flashback from the films, like the films would do themselves. And here we get to see the Chosen and Daniel fight to the death from Karate Kid 2. And the shocker here is that in current time, Chosen actually bows to Daniel. And it's a great come around because it's so important they showed that flashback of the movie, because you see Daniel spared him. And remember, Chosen was a complete psychopath. And it's cool, we see now the original Miyagi Dough, and there's Miyagi artifacts here, but there's more to that lore of the Miyagi way, which Chosen will kind of reveal a bit with Daniel. But I do want to point out in this episode, we see back in America that the character of Anthony, Daniel's son, was always kind of used as comic relief, always playing games, always eating. But he looks completely different here. He has like one line the whole season. That was a little disappointing to me. But I do think they're saving him, and I think they'll obviously go more into his character because he is Karate Kid's child here. But you see, it's interesting because Chosen's kind of showing some of the ways he learned from his master, who was also under Miyagi's father. And there is this belief in the Miyagi line of sometimes you have no choice but to kill. And again, like Daniel says, this is stuff Miyagi most likely didn't show him to protect Daniel. And I thought it worked great because you thought for a second when him and Chosen are fighting, Chosen was actually going to kill him here. But he just laughed, so we see how different his character is now. We could assume taught Daniel, like Daniel says, about the Miyagi pressure points. And that's going to have payoff at the end in the finale, which we'll get to. But I love on the other end of this episode where Johnny now starts his version of rehab for Miguel. He's lighting his shoelace on fire, which is just hysterical. But some of the best humor with Johnny here is he's writing in a notebook at one point, you see, a list he titles How to Fix Miguel's Legs with an exclamation point. And he writes electric shock, hypnosis, then Tony Robbins, and then LSD. This needs to be a t-shirt you can buy. I thought this was one of the funniest visual gags of the season. And I love when he cracks open the laptop to see WebMD, he says WebMD. But I do like they show this moment in sync where Robbie and Sam are both fading away from the Miyagi Dough teachings, where Robbie's beating up a bunch of people in prison and Sam is thinking of revenge against Cobra Kai. But this is where it gets really amped up in that Kreese way of his version of Cobra Kai with Tori now and Hawk, and Tori's looking for Sam in this laser tag and Hawk literally breaks Dimitri's arm. The actor of Hawk is amazing. Hawk is one of my favorite characters they've developed through this show. I think he's the best developed character of any of the kids from the top to now. What the actor does so well is he shows in his face the hesitation and that there's still some of that kid who was best friends with Dimitri in there, which will also get payoff later in the finale, which we'll get to. But they couldn't have tied the story of Chosen and Daniel and all these Karate Kid 2 storylines better than having the scene with Chosen and Daniel, and Chosen apologizing and Daniel forgiving. That was really effective, and to see that changed man. And it was even cool, this love you see they have for these movies, these writers of this show. Like, to think of that this dealership story would be tied around because the person who's got her hand in it was Yuna, who Daniel saved in the typhoon from Karate Kid 2. I mean, this is the little girl here, and they bring her back. It's like they go all out with this universe. That's what makes it so exciting. You never know who you're going to see from the old films, and they justify when they bring them back. It's not a cheesy way, it's an effective way. And it serves the theme here about the quote Aunt Yuki said, put good out into the world and good will come back to you. And it's just an awesome payoff from what Daniel did to save that girl's life, and now it's coming back years later. I teared at this even. And it gets that effective feel-goodness to the show when now Johnny's really winning Miguel back and now winning the mom back, Carmen. But what's awesome is now this ends on the cliffhanger this episode. It goes back to the end of season 2's cliffhanger. I was worried they were going to have that cliffhanger with Allie's friend request and never come to it this season because she wasn't in the trailers, but thank God they did, because you get excited. I'm a huge fan of the actress Elizabeth Shue, especially in her recent work in The Boys. So you're like, okay, here we go. You get a little goosebumps. So this episode was an 8.9 for me. At this point in the season, it was the best one since the premiere of season 3. So now let's shift to episode 6, King Cobra. So we're back now to a John Crease flashback in 1968 in Vietnam. What I like about these flashbacks, they're to the point. They don't make it a whole episode. I think that would kill the tone of this Karate Kid universe, but they lightly drop it in. And I like the detail, like his crazy sergeant in Vietnam is the one he learned these ways, and he even smokes a cigar like Kreese will eventually. And I love this thing they keep doing where when his teacher was teaching him these militarian ways of karate, it's laid over him in current time teaching the kids in Cobra Kai that way, about being all in. But where we see now in current time, Hawk's, again, great character development is when Kyler, his former bully, joins Cobra Kai, and you see that mask start to come off of Hawk. It was really crazy and awesome to see the other bully, though, that comes with Kyler, just Hawk kick the crap out of him, goes full insane here. It just hit hard, no pun intended. And my only complaint, though, with having Kyler come back with Hawk was they kind of just become buds later on and they don't address it enough. Kyler and Hawk, I feel like they still need to have a big moment here that never came. And I also think that was a missed opportunity in the finale where when we see Hawk come full circle and back around, I thought that would have been a great moment for him to fight Kyler, and that did not happen. But I'll get more into that when we get to the finale. So we see, though, back in the Kreese flashbacks, his captain's blaming him because Kreese did a just thing, not wanting to kill a fellow troop member, but his captain blames him now for the death of other people. This will weigh on Kreese as a person and start to mess him up in the brain a bit. So like I said, just the right amount of sprinkle here of Kreese's story, but not to take away from the whole main plot. And in that main plot, especially when we focus in on Johnny, I like that as Johnny helps Miguel, Miguel helps Johnny, calling Johnny out for helping people and then leaving and saying, you are a sensei, truly embrace it. And he starts walking again when he's yelling at Johnny, which was great. And that theme about him embracing who he is, that sensei, comes full circle with the Facebook photos, because he takes down those photos that weren't really him and puts up the ones with him in the dojo. That's who I am. I am a sensei. And I love that Daniel and Amanda try to pull this move to get Kreese kicked out with the rent of the dojo. But Kreese takes care of the landlord's guys and the landlord not to be messed with, and he sends the snakes over to the dealership and says to prepare your students for battle. I thought that was just classic, awesome Kreese. So this one, really good episode, another 8.9, which a lot of these episodes will fall at. Just solid stuff, and the pace here really starts to be really good here. Feeling like season 1 again, where there's just a nice flow to it. So episode 7, Obstacleless, is definitely clearly now trying to address the issues with Sam's character, especially in season 2, where she hasn't really grown. There's not much interesting going on with her psyche. We need to make her a little more of a deeper character, right? So they do that effectively because they show her this nightmare of Tori kicking the crap out of her, and she's got this like PTSD from what Tori did to her, rightfully so. So it's a nice story arc with her that will come full circle and again get a nice payoff where she will face her fear of Tori and grow as a character there. And I like they line up Daniel wanting to reopen Miyagi Dough while Johnny's starting his new dojo, and I love that it's just in the park he figures out he can do because it's free. And I like that having Miguel come back to his senses, be more of a likable character. He sees when he goes back to school what's happened in his absence and how bad Cobra Kai's got, and someone like Hawk. But I love he says to Johnny, Cobra Kai, they drank all the Kool-Aid. And Johnny just goes, what's wrong with Kool-Aid? Absolute gold. I also like now they blend a little Karate Kid 3 in here when Daniel's trying to comfort Sam about this fear of someone who's just really scary. And he brings up Mike Barnes, which I'm sure we'll get to see a little taste of next season. But they do justice to Karate Kid 3 because my favorite thing about Karate Kid 3 is the end and that quote Miyagi says, must not lose to fear, stay focused. I'm also someone in this unpopular camp where I really like Karate Kid 3. I thought it was super strong thematically, and that was coming to that line there with Miyagi. And I like Daniel saying to her, Sam, I'll always be there to help you like Miyagi was for me. So again, just great job by this writing team to effectively use the old movies to make sense with the driving the plot here. So we even see Yasmin's now changed as a character from being front wedgied and is actually warming up to Dimitri. She has a nice moment here where she signs his cast. I am someone who's not a crazy fan of Dimitri as much as I was in season 1, where I thought they overused him to season 2 because every single line of this character is a quick quip or a joke, and I think it's too much. It's like, okay, use Dimitri sparingly. It works that way, but when you overdo it, it's a problem. But they did a good job with him season 3 because they brought it down a bit with Dimitri lines. They kept it more balanced like season 1 or season 2. It was just overboard Dimitri, where then you feel like you're watching a teeny show on Netflix. And I love they got Johnny in the park now with the red jacket like he wore in Karate Kid 1. And he decides to name it Eagle Fang Karate, which takes down the Cobra. And I like that Cobra Kai shows up here and Johnny's sticking up to Kreese here, and we see kind of the playing field laid out of who's on what team. Get you hype. So again, 8.9, keeping the pace and just solid stuff here. So episode 8, the good, the bad, and the badass. Great title. Best title of the season. Seems like it was written by Johnny Lawrence himself. And you see Miyagi Do's reopen again. And like I said, I love how they got this cut between the 3 ways of teaching, between Johnny, Daniel, and Kreese. And I think it's smart when they do this where Robbie doesn't want anything to do with Daniel or Johnny, because it's the one thing that really brings Johnny and Daniel together, the concern for Robbie here and not losing him to Kreese. And on Miguel's side, I'm happy they didn't make him amazing at karate right away. Like, they realistically showed his physical skills improve slowly. And I actually like this story where the city cancels the All Valley tournament. It's a payoff from earlier in the season where basically the town's against karate because of the incident in season 2 and them sticking up for karate, the kids, on behalf of their parents who are weak about it. So it's the kids here who really shine, pushing their teachers to stick up for their love of karate, where it's the town has lost faith in it. And what I'm saying about where the show shines with feel-good moments, it's here when Miguel is saying how much Johnny's helped him as a sensei and how much karate has helped him. Now, Robbie's just pissed. He's seen Miguel and Sam about to kiss. He goes now to Kreese, setting up already here for some season 4 stuff that's going to be big. And another great episode. This is an 8.9 again for me. I've never had a show where I consistently give the same rating per episode, but it's just constantly the same amount of solid here going on in this streak of episodes. And it's a really brisk, good pace, and it's setting up an exciting finale. So episode 9, Feel the Night, is the most Christmassy episode. It's exciting because it starts with Allie back, Elizabeth Shue, and you see that Johnny's got Carmen back, Miguel's mom, sleeping with her, but he's conflicted because now the love from his childhood, Allie's back in town. But you see, they go back and have a date at golf and stuff after their lunch. They're about to kiss, but what this does well with Johnny and Allie's relationship, it closes the book on it here because it's that theme about great to visit the past and close some things up, and like he apologized to her, but it doesn't mean to make that your future and try to do it again. And that he eventually ends up with Carmen at the end of the finale. As much as a fan, I'd want to see Allie and Johnny together. It would fall under that. Maybe too fan servicey with not a great theme behind it. So I think they made the right choice here. I do think though that as much as I love Elizabeth Shue, I think she felt a little odd playing Allie. And I think it's a tough task because Allie's kind of a thin character from the first movie. So she's jumping into this from a very old character that wasn't very fleshed out from the film, and it felt a little off. And I don't know if it's on her or just the tall task of bringing a character like Allie back with a lot of screen time, but there was something a little just awkward about it. Like, I still felt like Elizabeth Shue was just not totally settled into the part, that she felt a little off about it. But you see now Robbie is shifting to the Robbie we originally met from season 1 that was just jaded and angry, and Hawk is getting jealous of his attention he's getting from Kreese. But the big development in this episode is that Sam and Miguel are the ones who think of bringing Johnny and Daniel's dojos together to take down the bigger evil in Kreese, which I really love that. And you see Kreese finds out about this and tells Tori to set up the stage for a big fight in the finale. So this episode, I'm actually going to give an 8.7. I was a little let down. I thought it was a little slow for a penultimate episode in a season, and I don't think the Daniel, Allie, and Johnny story that was started here and then finished in the finale was all that great. So opening this finale, titled December 19th, we get the final flashbacks of Kreese in this episode where we're in North Vietnam, and it's like this Deer Hunter-esque scene where we get something that is to the death in front of an audience, but they're just fighting here to the death. I love that it's above Cobra's. Nice touch. And I love just, if we look at this episode's flashbacks with John Crease, you see the moment he decided to go the way of Cobra Kai and his darkness set in was when he decides to let his commander not have mercy and lets him fall when their fight didn't even have to happen anymore because they could have escaped together. But he was so angry about him not telling him about his girlfriend dying, rightfully so, but that was the character choice that changed him forever, to not give him mercy, and he became a different man, the man we see today. So that again really showed a great way in that moment to justify, okay, now we know where Kreese is, now we know why he became the way he did, and the moment he changed and decided to do something not for the good but for bad, and it would make sense then why he is still doing these awful things today. I did like though with Daniel and Johnny here in front of Allie, they're fighting, and Allie says, let's just hope our kids are more involved than we are, and it cuts them now all fighting in the LaRusso house. It shocked me because I thought the finale would be the All Valley tournament, but I was worried at first that they decided to do the house fight because I was excited to see the All Valley tournament, but then I was happy to see, no, we're still going to get that. They're just setting up for next season. I wasn't crazy though about this Christmas music bleeding in to the fight. I think they kind of forced the Christmas theme into the finale. I don't think it was as important. It kind of took away from how important these scenes were to finish off the season. To kind of blend that holiday music on, I thought was just not effective. But we get some payoffs here in the fights. I like that Tori and Sam had this little showdown, and she faces her panic attacks and her fear of Tori. And it's a nice touch with the Miyagi photo being hit by Tori, but like Miyagi would come into Daniel's head to help him, her father comes into her head. And we see Hawk, who's already, they developed, it works his flip now to help Dimitri because they've already had his hesitation moments in the season. But again, I wish he went after Kyler here and we got the payoff between their long beef, and the man who made him into who he is really is Kyler. But maybe they want to keep Hawk in the more light version he's going now and not get revenge on his bully. I could also see that as well. But I think would have preferred that. But you see Allie has this important line where she's like, to Johnny and Daniel, you guys are more like each other than you want to admit. This is a theme of this season in particular, and they both actually come to admit they have fault in their rivalry, which I think is really important and is something you can justify through the Karate Kid movies to now in Cobra Kai. And they've made their point and they've proven their point, the writers. So good job on that. Like I already said, Allie and Johnny realize it can't happen between them, and they go to this theme about let the past be the past and live for today. And it triggers him to realize he loves Carmen. But this will lead to him seeing Miguel hurt. And this is where I love now. My favorite moment of the season is when Johnny appears to Kreese and they get a showdown here in front of his son, Robbie. And again, cutting well between these flashbacks of now Johnny fighting his master, flashing back to Kreese fighting his in Vietnam. And then I love LaRusso shows up. So we're getting all these things now that huge fans of Karate Kid, you gotta love to see this. And how about that, when Kreese was about to kill LaRusso, Chosen kicks into Danny's head, and I think he was thinking about obviously killing Kreese here, thinking of the Miyagi pressure point he learned from Chosen. But his kid showing up stopped that moment, which would have been bad judgment on LaRusso's part. But I love how they set up season 4 where Kreese is like, we'll settle this in the tournament, and that Robbie now is full on Kreese here, and that we still know Tori is as well. So it's setting up a big stage now for the next season. And I love we got Hawk now in this team and that we see them join up, and you had to get goosebumps at Miyagi Dough when Johnny shows up. We got both these teams together and they're gonna teach together to take down Kreese. And it worked with the Phil Collins cover. And what really got me hyped, you knew this already from the earlier flashbacks, how the actor even looked like the character of Terry Silver. But they even say in Karate Kid 3 that Terry Silver owes Kreese for what he did for him in Vietnam. So what a pull by these writers to think of that, to lead to an awesome setup of Terry Silver coming into this show with having now Kreese calling now Terry on the phone here. That got me so excited now. And I love they end with Johnny saying, ready, let's begin. I love this finale. It gets a 9.7 for me. It's such an awesome type of setup for a next season type of finale. And I think we got enough payoff here to justify it being more of a setup than a climax. So for me, averaging all together these scores, I'm gonna give season 3 an 8.8. I think it's a huge improvement over season 2, which makes me so happy. It clearly looked at complaints that were of season 2. I know a lot of people like season 2, but there were a lot of people like me who were disappointed in it compared to season 1. And I think a lot of people have voiced these complaints where it got too much teen drama, didn't have as much humor, and they clearly went out this season to fix those things by, you see, there's more adult dialogue here. We spend more time with Johnny and Daniel than the kids, and the humor is back here. It's still, again, not as magical as season 1. Season 1 just had everything clicking in that balance of humor and drama and feel good. But this one got back to what works, and it worked really well. So I think it's not as good as season 1, but that's a tall task, but way better than season 2. So I'm really excited. I'm hyped for season 4. And I really am excited to see now Terry Silver come into the picture, because they've made it that exciting effectiveness like the Marvel Universe or Star Wars, where you're just pumped at who can appear. And like I said, if you want to know my Karate Kid movie rankings, I love the first one the best, but I actually like the next Karate Kid second, then the third Karate Kid, and then last the second one. It's an unpopular opinion, but that's what makes me excited, that they've already said that it's all canon, even the next Karate Kid. So I'm excited knowing that if we know season 3 was really focused on Karate Kid 2, that we know looking up season 4 is going to be Karate Kid 3. I hope season 5 can pull off bringing back Hilary Swank from the next Karate Kid to play Julie again, because that would just be an accomplishment on the show's own merits, thinking that this started on YouTube, original series, brought back, and it's blown people away how good it is. It has no right to be as good as it is, as many people say. I agree with that statement, but it is. And if they can get an A-list actor like Hilary Swank now to join in, it will just represent how successful the show's been. And I think there is more to tell with that character of Julie, and I think that's even more of a timely type of story, the next Karate Kid, so I think it could blend in to Cobra Kai really well. The sky's the limit for this show, and they're doing a good job at pacing out and not pulling out all the cards yet. They don't want to burn out, because there's only so much you can take from the movie, and they justify it and make it good on its own story. Let me know down below what you thought of the season. Give me any of your thoughts on any of the episodes, the season as a whole, what you're excited about with season 4. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment and try to respond to as many as I can. If you like what I do here, I ask for a $2 monthly donation. There's a PayPal link down below. That will let me do more videos for you guys and do this full time. It's my dream, and I appreciate any support I can get. Please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter and Instagram for more of me. And please make sure to subscribe to my channel. It helps me in so many ways. You have no idea. I do a bunch of TV shows, movie reviews, and I also do celebrity interviews, so you want to check those out. And I'll see you next time.